Okay, Midnight is out, Season 1 won't be long, so here's all the things that I think you need to be aware of. And it does include some rather recent and insane news about the monetization of this game. Also some fun things, a QA pattern, the return of an old friend, and a stack of things that the game doesn't really tell you about. And a painting that costs gold cap unless you're having a bad enough day and have solved a secret. Okay, welcome to the news, let's get started. The expansion's finally live, we're in the pre-season window right now, so here's overall what to expect and what's out. Right now, all 8 Mythic Zero dungeons are available on a weekly lockout with Veteran 3 out of 6 loot. That's basically going to be the best stuff for you to chase down. The Haranir are playable after a pretty much instantaneous quest, and hard mode for Prey is active. So this is basically your gearing window. Have fun, it'll close out in about 2 weeks whenever Season 1 of Midnight starts on the 17th of March. That's when we'll get normal and heroic raids opening, and that's the Voidspire and Dream Rift. Rated PvP will launch that same day, along with Blizzard's first wave of class tuning. Then, on March 24th, a week later, we'll get Mythic Raids and Mythic Plus. That's when the Race to World First will kick off, but there is going to be more raid content because on the 31st of March, that's when we'll get the March on Quell Danas on Normal, Heroic, and Mythic all at once. Then, on April 7th, Story Mode and Raid Finder will be fully opened up. At that point, all the content will be unlocked, we'll be fully into Season 1, and in terms of things to expect, well, we have seen patch 12.0.5 appear on Blizzard's server, so testing for that will likely begin soon, and there was some data mining around a Voidforge system, which looks to be some form of mid-season catch-up. But looking further out, the next major patch will be 12.1, that's confirmed for summer of this year, and as I'll get to soon, we already have a fair enough idea of what that will look like. So, that's roadmap stuff, but before we really get into that, Blizzard have worried everyone, and there is something they need to answer for. Another thing that went live this week is the store for housing, and within hours, well, we were pretty much all just tearing it apart. And also within hours, Blizzard actually pulled items from the store and then put them back on again. So, I'll start this with the principles that Blizzard laid out. You see, back in November, they published a developer insight post that was laying out their philosophy on Hearthsteel. And 3 commitments stood out. No leftover currency. That costs were designed to align with the Hearthsteel offer amounts in a player-friendly way. Also, that every item would be available for individual purpose, and there would be no FOMO. Quote, you shouldn't feel like you have to spend money now or risk missing something you want. We can now check those against the new wave of things Blizzard have shipped. So, multiple items, individual ones, were priced in multiples of 50 Hearthsteel. But worst of all, the Spring Blossom tree launched at 750. That's 750 Hearthsteel for a single tree, right? One tree. If you wanted a bunch of trees, that would begin to cost you a lot of money, because remember, 750 Hearthsteel is $7.50. That's crazy. There's hanging chairs at 250 each, doormats at 200, but you can only buy Hearthsteel in multiples of 100. You can't buy 750, you can't buy 250. Every purchase at those price points forces you to have some leftover currency. So that's one of their commitments, I think somewhat broken on arrival. Now, there are other games that do this in a far more malicious way. This is hardly the worst, but still, it's not ideal, especially when you look at those extremely high launch prices. I said launch because they have backtracked some of this. But then there's the second commitment. Now, the Spring Blossom Decor Pack included the lush garden trellises, and those are things that you cannot buy on their own. So that does contradict their blue post. And then there's commitment 3, no FOMO. But of course the store launched with, well, time-limited bundles. Of course the community clocked onto that immediately. And then there's the price structure. There's a new $15 bundle that gives you 1,000 Hearthsteel plus 4 doormats, so that's about 1,800 Hearthsteel in total value. There's a $35 pack that gets you 2,500 Hearthsteel, so $25, and then 2 gazebos, ultimately being worth 4,100 Hearthsteel. And if you spend about $100 across all these packs, you'll get roughly $130 in nominal Hearthsteel value. So it's classic bundle psychology. But that's just the housing side, because Blizzard also dropped 4 new store mounts this week, the Scurry Wild Grove Glider Collection. Each mount is $25 each. There are 4 of them. or you could just spend $50 for the entire bundle. So between the mounts and the housing, that's like $150 in store items landing the same week the expansion has went live. But there's another one as well. The Blue Post said that housing items tied to core fantasies of a player's race or class wouldn't be sold in the shop. But those doormats in the $15 pack are Alliance and Horde welcome mats. You could argue that faction identity is pretty damn core. Now, it's not the strongest case because those mats didn't exist in the game otherwise, and technically Blizzard's post says the player's class and race. It doesn't actually say their faction, but still, it does feel like another line in the sand that they just quietly hopped over. Now, to Blizzard's credit, the backlash landed fast and they did actually respond. The Spring Blossom Pack and the individual trees were pulled from the store within hours, and then when the tree came back, it was repriced from 750 Hearthsteel for a single tree to 250, which is an 87% price cut, and it is roughly in line with what I believe Final Fantasy XIV charges for a similar tree. And they also revised the pack to include 3 trees. Now, to be fair, 250 is a much cleaner number. You can buy 2 trees for 500 Hearthsteel, and you can buy 500 Hearthsteel, or 4 for 1,000, with no leftovers. That is a lot better, and the 750 price, well, it was genuinely bad maths. Fixing this was the right call, but the broader structure has not changed here. Items are still priced in multiples of 50, while the Hearthsteel is sold in multiples of 100. So the point is, you buy enough for the thing you want, and you'll have some money left over for a few little, doodads. Or you'll feel like you should spend even more money so you can buy another higher ticket item. The other bit, though, is the time-limited bundles. That is still a problem, and Blizzard has not said a word about any of this. They just quietly adjusted it. Big picture, these prices do seem really, really high. Now, some of this is the same pattern we've seen with the trading post, where paid transmog sets are coming bundled with enough tender to buy said matching weapon, right? That's a thing we've continually seen, where the weapons could be on the trading post, but then you buy the gear in a bundle, and the bundle will conveniently have enough traders tender. I think we're seeing a similar enough pattern here with the housing. And what's just insane to me is that Blue Post. I mean, Blizzard published a detailed philosophy document, they made 3 specific promises, and then managed to pretty much break them all upon the launch of the expansion. Now, they did partially walk some stuff back, but they did so without acknowledging it. This stuff doesn't really feel like a grey area, and you have to remember here, World of Warcraft actually costs a monthly subscription. It's one of the few games in the industry that is able to do that. And one of the things that should come with that is you feeling like you're getting an a la carte experience. I don't really think that is so true with how they're handling this, and the sheer speed at which that store is filling up. Both the housing one and also the other additional purchases, like the mount bundle. I don't know. The vibes are certainly off, I'll say that much. But let's move to another brand of fun chaos. Did you know an XP exploit nearly made it to launch? And, well, it still is going to impact you. So, housing endeavors, combined with zone scaling, let people level from 80 to 90 in under an hour. Quite insane. Beta testers flagged this weeks before launch, and Blizzard finally fixed it. Now, they fixed it by disabling Endeavor XP entirely, and it's only going to come back in April, so rather unfortunate and certainly a close call. But the other 2 things really are head-scratchers. One of them is the Harrenir, the headlining allied race of Midnight, who launched with loads of clipping issues on loads of armor pieces, especially the female Harrenir. They have a permanent vine brass strap that transmog can't remove. Looks quite rough. Now, this is reported on the PTR since November. This was reported on the beta. It took a long-ass time, loads of bug fixes, and it still shipped. That's really weird. And then there's the Sunwell beam, the beam that is so loud it drowns out NPC dialogue, ambient sound, even your Discord calls. And the only workaround is turning off ambient audio entirely, which of course kills the atmosphere of the beautifully crafted new Silvermoon. That was reported in beta and still shipped. And there are loads of other little bugs. And none of these are catastrophic on their own, but I think it is a pattern that's worth paying attention to of beta feedback happening and stuff not really being fixed up in time for launch. And of course, that looks especially bad in a world where we're talking about, say, the Hearthsteel store in the way that we just did. Now, on the topic of the Harrenir, Blizzard say they do have clipping fixes coming, quote, over the next week or so, which is good, but months upon months of PTR reports just didn't get fixed. and it seems it took 48 hours of live game outrage to actually make the changes happen. You could certainly say that says something about how Blizzard are running right now, and I don't necessarily want to say that that's nefarious. I think it's just they must be running so fast that they're just firefighting all the time. But, at least while they were firefighting, some of us found our own fun in the form of a new frog farm. If you're around for MOP or MOP Remix, then you know how this is going. Plume-bellied toads at Still Whisper Pond just outside Silvermoon pretty much respawn indefinitely and extremely quick. And the way it works is through hyperspawning, and it really is the same story as always. Mass farming groups appear on the group finder, some of which having funny names like frog skinning, totally working as intended, and what basically happens is, the more you kill them, then the more they respawn. And this can really get quite insane. Now, the toads themselves don't drop anything that valuable, but their hides let you max out your skinning proficiency in no time at all, and of course flood the AH with mountains of cheap leather. This has led to some prices crashing, which, to be honest, at the start of an expansion when everyone is trying to level up their professions, well, you know, it maybe isn't the worst thing for some of us. But still, it's funny that this keeps on happening with frogs. It's the same problem, just happening in a different frog pond. Anyway, there's every chance this has been hotfixed by the time you see this video, but at least at the time of making this video, it has not yet been hotfixed. But I'm sure that when it is, people will find another hyperspawn farm. But with that chaos covered, I did promise you some 12.1 stuff, so let's talk about that next. Right now, there's an inaccessible island in Midnight's world. If you swim towards it and get close, the game will hit you with a debuff called Coiling Suffocation, which might turn a few people in the internet on, and then it will teleport you back to the mainland. This is all going down in Zalaman, and, well, the community picked up on coiling very fast. Because, do you know what coils? Snakes. Serpents. Now, this connects to Ulatek, a serpent goddess worshipped by the Zalaman trolls, and data mined gear file names do reference an Ulatek raid. And of course, Blizzard have already confirmed patch 12.1 for summer 2026. And this would certainly follow Blizzard's pattern of seeding the next zone, like in the launch map. We've seen some of that stuff before. Most obviously, it happened with Undermine, though the funny thing about that during the War Within is we did see data mining suggesting that a Rootlands exists. And certainly if you've been to Harrendar, well, I think you found out that the Rootlands do in fact exist. Anyway, it seems we'll be getting some sort of troll patch. Now the thing is, we don't actually know if it will be the next major patch zone, though it does have a raid, which usually would suggest that, but if you check in on the roadmap, you will see that the 0.7 patches do have one boss raids as well. Anyway, expect something going on there, and with patch 12.0.5 seemingly hitting Blizzard's test servers and like being picked up on the stuff that like looks at the Blizzard CDN, I would imagine we'll probably learn about patch 12.0.5 fairly soon, actually. But before we wrap up, I want to rattle you through a bunch of little quick hit stories and interesting things. First up, crafting sparks. Blizzard have simplified these. There are no more fragments. The way it works is you get 1 full spark a week, and recipes now cost 2 sparks and 4 if they are for a two-hander. Now, the fastest weekly quest to get these takes about like 60 seconds. You just buy 3 brews at the Argentina, you toast other players, and then, yeah, that's it. And plus, of course, you're just given one of these sparks pretty much at the get-go, so right now you should be able to craft something that costs 2 of those sparks. Next up, there's good news for people who didn't buy the $90 Epic Edition and didn't get early access. Basically, Blizzard are granting additional profession knowledge so that everybody is just on the same footing, which means that if you are on the early access, you don't get an advantage, which is absolutely a brilliant thing. Now, speaking of advantages, it's a small one, but it is one that I like. It's the advantage of just having bigger bags so you can carry shit. It totally slipped by me, but we now have bigger bags in WoW. You can buy 38-slot Sunfire Silk backpacks and a 40-slot Arcana Weave reagent rucksack as well. Now, these are made by tailors. They are super expensive in the auction house, but prices will come down as the bolt cooldowns begin to catch up and just more of those limited resources are being crafted. And that means that before long, you'll have a shitload of space. Okay, sticking on professions though, each profession has got up to 8 hidden knowledge treasures. They're worth about 3 points each. That's about 24 free points for just flying about the place picking things up, and you only need skill level 1 to grab them. So Yeah, just go do a Google for whatever professions you've picked up and go do a tour of the Midnight Zones, pick up all those items, and you'll have a nice boost to your professions. I absolutely recommend you do that now during the preseason period. Now, another thing, and something that the game never really explains straight up, a cool thing with prey hunts. And loads of people didn't notice this. I didn't notice this after I did my first few. But after you survive an ambush, you'll be able to see a red trail in the ground. If you follow that trail, you can right-click the little hiding prey, and that will get you bonus hunt progress. Pretty cool. The next one is cool, but a little bit fun, please. But the hotfix has let us do another thing that's also kind of cool. Sounds a bit weird, but here's what it is. The personal key for the Argentina got hotfixed because people were using it as a 1.5 minute cooldown Silvermoon teleport, which was crazy. But the funny thing is Blizzard's fix to that accidentally made it better. And hopefully it isn't a hotfix by the time you see this, but you can queue for a follower dungeon, and then you can use the key when you're inside that dungeon, then exit the Argentina, and the game will spit you out at that dungeon's entrance, which basically means you can teleport around to all those dungeon locations plus Silvermoon with a 90-second cooldown. So yeah, have fun before Blizzard notices. Okay. Next funny one, it's kind of brilliant, and certainly did get one person pretty damn bad. There's a Turin painting inspired by a Picasso piece. It's pretty cool. It's called the Shoe Hello Perspective. The vendor wants gold cap for it though, which is 9,999,999 gold. That's quite a lot of gold, but the secret finding community has worked out that if you carry all 13 of Sargle's bad fortune cookies in your bags, then the vendor will take pity on you and drop the price to 999 gold. Of course, not before someone over on Reddit showed that they had just went and spent gold cap on it. Maybe this is a spot of commentary in the high-end art market by Blizzard. Anyway, the next story is a bit more useful, but still tied to housing, because there's a housing teleport to Silvermoon now, and a 15-minute cooldown that you can access via the housing UI. This is temporary though. Basically it exists because it's tied to the Silvermoon endeavor, and it will go away in April, but at least until then you can use it to zip about the place fairly quick. Though there's another nice thing you should absolutely know about because it goes away in Season 1, and that is you can still buy the pre-patch collectibles using resonance crystals. You probably have a shitload of them left over from the War Within. So basically all those cosmetics from the pre-patch event that basically sucked can now be acquired. I have to wonder if Blizzard just did this because, well, the event kind of blew. Maybe people just didn't bother. But a final little thing, if you're looking for some preseason power, there is an item level 246 trinket from the Singularity at Renown 7. That's totally achievable, so if you want something to go and do, you can go and do that. So that's so good it almost feels like a freebie, but there is an actual freebie you can get, which is the Rizeshi C. It's this little Naga dude, and you'll get that for playing WoW for 15 minutes with Discord open between now and March 15th. So there you go. It's easy to miss, it's also easy to get. But that being said, I mean, battle pets have kind of been sunset in this expansion, you may have noticed. But for most people, I don't think that really makes pets less interesting or useful, and that's because Blizzard plans to integrate pets with housing, so I think that should be a fairly good place for them. But okay, that is your launch week news. If you want to go, though, and next fix up all your WoW characters and their keybinds, I have something special for you in this video next.